In just 9 minutes, discover 10 explosive takeaways from Jordan Peterson's Face-Off with 20 atheists on Jubilee Surrounded, covering belief versus action, God, truth, morality, and the emotional breakdown that left viewers speechless. This debate goes deeper than you ever imagined. Takeaway 1. How belief is more than words. Jordan Peterson argues that belief is not just what someone says, but also what they act out. He suggests that people who claim they do not believe in God might still act in ways that show they do. This idea challenges the way many atheists define belief as only a conscious agreement with an idea. According to Peterson, your actions show your real values. He says you act it out, and if you act it out, you believe it, even if you don't know you believe it. This pushes people to look at their own behavior instead of just what they say. For example, someone might claim they don't believe in morality based on religion, but if they still treat others with respect, avoid lying, and believe in human rights, they might be acting out a religious moral framework without realizing it. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 2. Definitions of God are not simple. One of the main disagreements in the podcast is over what the word God even means. Jordan Peterson refuses to define God in simple terms. He often says, it depends on what you mean by God, and he suggests God is not just a magical being in the sky, but something like the deepest moral truth that people live by. The atheists in the room get frustrated by this because they expect a clear definition. This confusion shows how people often argue about different things without realizing it. If one person sees God as a father figure in the sky, and another sees God as the force that shapes human conscience, then they are not really arguing about the same thing. For example, one atheist said they stopped believing in the man in the sky, but Peterson responds by saying that this idea is a very shallow image of what God could be. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 3, morality without God is not easy. The podcast explores whether people can be moral without believing in God. Some atheists argue that morality comes from evolution or from society, but Peterson challenges this. He says that in history, many societies that tried to invent their own moral codes without something higher ended up in disaster. He mentions communist countries like the Soviet Union, where millions died under systems that tried to create morality without any spiritual foundation. Peterson believes that without God, it is hard to say why anything is right or wrong except for personal opinion. For example, if someone says stealing is wrong, Peterson asks, why? If the answer is because it hurts people, he goes deeper and asks why hurting people is bad if life has no ultimate meaning. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 4, reason and emotion often clash. Many atheists in the podcast rely heavily on logic and reason, but Peterson pushes back by pointing out that human beings are not only logical. He says that people are also emotional, symbolic, and driven by stories. Peterson argues that religious stories capture human truth in a way that logic alone cannot. While the atheists often ask for evidence, Peterson says some things are too deep for facts to explain. For example, love, sacrifice, and courage are meaningful even if we can't prove them with data. This creates a clash between a cold view of the world and one that leaves room for mystery. For example, one atheist kept asking for scientific proof of God, and Peterson replied that not all truths come from science. Just like the beauty of music or the pain of betrayal cannot be fully explained in scientific terms. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 5, conflict can reveal real beliefs. A big part of the podcast is the back and forth between Peterson and the atheists. Sometimes it feels like a battle, and that is partly what makes it exciting to watch. The format is set up like a competition, with people being voted out, which adds tension. This debate style forces people to speak their strongest ideas quickly, and it also shows who gets emotional or defensive when challenged. The conflict helps reveal what people really care about, and it shows how difficult it is to change someone's mind. Peterson often keeps his calm while others get frustrated, which shapes how viewers see the conversation. For example, one atheist was voted out after confronting Peterson about slavery in the Bible, which led to a very heated exchange and showed how emotional these topics can become. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 6. Peterson's fans see depth in his views. Supporters of Jordan Peterson admire how he brings psychology, philosophy, and religion together. They feel he talks about things that matter deeply, like suffering, meaning, and responsibility. In this podcast, Peterson talks about how people must carry their own cross, meaning they should take responsibility for their lives. He also says that telling the truth is the best way to move forward, even if it is hard. These messages connect with people who are tired of simple answers and want deeper meaning in life. For example, Peterson tells a story about his experience reading the book of Job and how it helped him deal with suffering, which can resonate with viewers who are facing personal struggles. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 7. Atheist voices raise valid challenges. Even though the title of the video puts Peterson versus the atheists, many of the atheists make thoughtful points. Some of them are well-read in theology and philosophy, and they challenge Peterson's ideas in clever ways. One person questions whether Peterson really believes in God, or if he just believes belief is useful. Others point out that religion has also caused harm in history, like wars and oppression. These challenges make the conversation richer and show that atheists are not just rejecting religion out of ignorance. For example, one participant said that they walked away from faith after studying theology and realizing how human-made much of it is. That kind of insight adds real depth to the discussion. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 8. Stories carry moral weight across time. Peterson says that stories from religion, especially the Bible, are not just old myths, but are deep reflections of human experience. He talks about how stories like Moses facing Pharaoh or Job suffering without explanation show real psychological truths. These stories speak to what people go through in life, like facing injustice, pain, or making sacrifices. Peterson argues that these stories survived for centuries because they carry powerful lessons. For example, he says that the story of Cain and Abel is not just about two brothers, but about how envy and bitterness can destroy your soul if you let them grow unchecked. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 9. Religion helps shape identity and culture. One important theme is that religion is not just about belief, but about the culture it creates. Peterson points out that Western countries are deeply shaped by Christianity, even if people do not go to church anymore. He says ideas like human rights, freedom, and justice have roots in religious thinking. Without religion, these values might not make sense. Some atheists disagree, saying that society can move beyond religion. But Peterson insists that people still need stories, rituals, and higher values to live by. For example, he says that even people who claim to believe in equality are relying on an idea that comes from religious teachings about the value of every soul. Now let's move to the last takeaway. Takeaway 10. Doubt and faith often live together. In one of the more emotional parts of the podcast, Peterson becomes visibly upset when talking about the weight of belief. He says that it is hard to believe in God because it is such a serious thing. He talks about how faith means carrying the burden of doing what is right, even when it is painful. Some atheists misunderstand this and think he is just being vague, but his message is that true belief is not easy, and doubt is often part of the process. This adds a human touch to the conversation, showing that belief is not about having all the answers. For example, he says that if you truly believed in God, you would act as if every lie was a betrayal of something sacred, and that is a very heavy responsibility. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, hit the thanks button below. It really helps us keep going. If you enjoyed this summary, please leave a like and share it in your WhatsApp groups. To join discussion about this video, drop a comment below. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below.